Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Effective Communication Techniques. So before we get started, I want to bring your attention to the roadmap, which is something that was put together by the state of Nevada. No matter what area or what phase of your business that you're in, you can go here to the roadmap. You can click on one of the areas and they will give you resources that will help you move in the direction that you want to move into. I highly recommend that you take the time to take a look at this and see some of the things that are out there. I think you'll be surprised. So let's talk about communication. As you know, there are people who get you, who actually understand your jokes, love the way you look, at the way that you act, the way you speak, etc. And there are people who don't get you, okay? And they think, oh, what did you say? How did you mean that? What happens is that we all have different communication styles. And there are a lot of programs out there that will talk to you about those various communication styles and what those communication styles mean. So we're just going to talk a little bit today about 4 basic styles. I call them the communication quads. And we're going to talk about them in the areas of 4 ways that we interact. One way we interact is through basic communication, just talking with one another, just getting to know one another. One way that we communicate is through management. How do we deal with our colleagues? How do we deal with our bosses? How do we deal with our subordinates? Another way that we deal with communication is through time management. How do we manage our time in such a way that it gets us through the processes that we need to get through? And the 4th way is how do we deal with communication when it comes to learning? How do we help people get the information that we want them to have, as well as being able to use that information in a positive manner? So let's look at this whole idea of the communications quad. So as we communicate with others, it's important to As we communicate with one another, it is important to remember that we're speaking with people who have their own styles of giving and receiving information. Communication is not about listening and speaking. It is not about agreement. It is about understanding, especially when we don't agree. So just remember that if you and I understand the things that were said in the same way, we don't have to agree with them, but we do need to understand them so that communication actually takes place. So we're going to look at 4 different ways that, kind of the ways that have been set up to allow us to see different styles coming from us and coming from other people. Understand that we are all 4 of these, but we have things that stand out. And many times our particular communication style will stand out based on the situation that we're in. So what is an analytical? Well, an analytical is the thinker. That's the one who wants to know what is happening and show me. Show me just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Show me what you're doing. Show me in a way that I can understand it so that I can either agree or disagree. So a profession of an analytical might be a bookkeeper, because a bookkeeper wants to make sure that all the numbers are correct, they are put in the right places, and they are going to give us back information that allows us to make better business decisions. And then let's look at an amiable. And an amiable is the person who puts the relationship above everything else. I want you to feel comfortable. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause you a problem. Now, with an amiable, that's a problem, that could be a problem for you, because that's the person who makes it very difficult to make a decision. That person is trying so hard to make sure that all the pieces fit together well and everybody's happy, that to come up with a definitive definition of what needs to happen, that's rough. Because if I make a decision one way or the other, I'm going to make one person happy and make another person unhappy. And that is a problem for an amiable. They actually want to see the harmony in the relationship. And we all have that in us too. And we have to decide when is it useful to use that. Then we have an expressive. Now, an expressive is a storyteller. An expressive is the person who wants to be on stage. I would think that probably a salesperson would be an expressive. That's the person who's going to do the show and tell for you, and you're going to sign on the dotted line. I got stories to tell you that will make you say yes. I have situations that I can share with you that make you see that it is worth it for you to take this step forward. So an expressive is the person who, in many cases, talks all the time, but has a lot to say. At least the expressive thinks he has a lot to say. And then a driver is the person who says, okay, look, tell me what you want me to do, and then get out of my office and let me do it. Okay. So when I said before that an analytical is one that wants the facts, absolutely true. A driver doesn't want to have to sit there and disseminate the facts. Just tell me what you want and then leave me. And when I talk to you, I'm going to tell you what I want, and it's not going to be a great long discussion. So for a driver is very much to the point. A driver is one of those people that would probably have a meeting in the office with no chairs, because you're not expected to be there for a while. This is not a place where you come to sit and relax. It's a place where we get stuff done, and you go on and do what you need to do so I can get back to doing what I need to do. So we've got 4 different styles, and they are very different, but we all have all 4 of those styles: the analytical, the amiable, the expressive, and the driver. So when we're looking at management, when we're looking at how we work with others in the workforce, how we need to find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, as well as what our strengths and weaknesses are. When I'm looking at an analytical, I'm looking for somebody who's very thorough. I'm looking for somebody who is picky. If I have a bookkeeper, I want my bookkeeper to be very, very picky about what's happening with my funds. I want my bookkeeper to be very thorough in the fact that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and that because of that information, I can make good business decisions and be able to stand on the information that was given to me. Now, we talked about the amiable. The amiable in a management situation is the supportive person. That's the one that tries to keep the glue, the cohesiveness in the team. That's the person that wants to make sure that everybody is getting along. And that's also the person who may have some decisions that are a little uncomfortable for him or her, because they want to keep the harmony. Harmony is point number one. That's priority one, harmony. The other stuff, I have to figure out how to work with that, but I want to make sure that the whole team gets together, that we work as one, etc. So we talked about the expressive. When we're talking about it in a managerial situation, we'd call that the promotional person. That's the one, that's the rah-rah person. That's your cheerleader. Okay, that's the person who says, yes, we can get this done. And I've got all these stories to tell you that will prove that we can get this done. So I'm always looking at that person is the very enthusiastic person that go out and get things done kind of person. But sometimes they don't follow through completely. Now, if they don't follow through completely, that will drive the driver crazy. That will drive the analytical crazy. And the supportive person will be there to pat the promotional person on the back and say, well, let's see if we can help out to make that happen, to get those things done. So the driver is the person that we look at who is very bottom line and very much that this is what needs to be done, and now we move to the next thing. So many of us think of that as the efficient person, but sometimes we think of that as a person who can be a little too snappy, too short, sometimes overbearing, because it's just about the situation. It's not about the person per se. So let's get the situation taken care of, and then let's move on to the next thing. So when we're looking at a situation where we're trying to learn, or where we're either teaching an employee or an employee is learning for the first time from us, maybe for the first time in a job, maybe for the first time in that particular position, maybe for the first time being with a group versus being solo, or maybe for the first time being solo after being in a group. There's a learning process that has to take care of. And so we look at this, and you've probably heard of this concept before of the conscious, competent person. Okay, so what we're looking at when we're training an employee, the employee doesn't know what he doesn't know. So the employee comes in and literally is blank to how we do things in our company. Not necessarily blank to understanding what the job is, but blank to understanding how we process the job. So we call that the unconscious incompetent, because the employee just doesn't know what he doesn't know, starting from scratch. Then we move to the conscious incompetent, which is as the employee gets to the learning process, starts to pick up some of the things some of the processes that we do, some of the ways that we do things, some of what is expected of that person in that position. That person can look at that and say, oh my gosh, I have a really good idea of all the stuff I don't know. I'm very conscious of the stuff I don't know. So now I need, as an employee, I need to put my effort into learning those things that I don't know, learning those processes that I don't know. Then we move to getting the employee to, this is where we want most of our employees to be. We want most of our employees to be conscious, competent. That's when the employee can say with honesty and forthrightness that I know what I know. I have a handle on this. I've gone through the lessons. I've gone through the exercises. I've gone through the processes. I've gone through the different areas of learning how to do this position. I have a good idea of what is expected of me. and how I can move forward. That's when you start doing employee goals, because now the employee has an idea of what those goals actually mean and what the impact of those goals will be on the business as a whole. Then the last place that we look at in the learning quad is when we have an employee who is unconscious competent. And what does that mean? That means that the employee just does stuff. It just makes it work. The employee doesn't know what he knows. He knows a lot of stuff. And it's like, oh my goodness, I just made this happen. This is working for me. This is actually, I can put all the pieces together and move forward. That's the employee that we're coaching, because that employee is the one that we are moving toward management. That's the one who is management ready, because they've got the information that they need. They know what they know, and now it's time to move them up to another level in the company. So this one is the one that is probably hard for a lot of people, and it's the time management quad. Because in a business, there's a lot of stuff, and we know that, and all kinds of stuff that needs to get done. But sometimes our stuff gets in the way of our productivity. So this is probably a concept that you've run across also, and maybe you never thought of it in this manner. So let's start with quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is where I want to live my life as an employee, as a person, and as an organized person who handles time well. Quadrant 2 says, I am always dealing with important stuff, but it's not urgent. Now, why is quadrant 2 so important? Because if we go to quadrant 1, I'm dealing with stuff that's important. Yes, I should be, but it's also urgent. Oh my gosh, I'm in crisis mode. This should have been done. This has to be done by. I'm not sure when this, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Oh my goodness, how do I get through this particular process, this particular problem, this particular issue that I have? So quadrant 1 says, something is very important, but it's also very urgent, which means that I got to drop everything else that I'm working on and work on that. That's why I want to live my life in quadrant 2. I want to do those things that are important, whether they're important in my business life or they're important in my home life, my personal life. I want to do what's important, but it's not urgent yet. It is not a crisis. So then if I look at quadrant 3, I'm working on stuff that's urgent, but not necessarily important. And sometimes it's urgent to someone else and it's not urgent to us. For instance, I'm cleaning out my emails. I need to get that done, but that's not the most important thing I need to work on, but I need to take the time to do that. A phone call comes in. That may be urgent for the person who's making the call, but it may not be something that is important for me to deal with, or it may push it into quadrant 1 and say, oh my gosh, this is important as well as being urgent. So when we were working on the stuff that's not really important, but we need to get it out of the way, that's our clean out mode. That's our quadrant 3. That's the time that we're doing housekeeping. Let's get this stuff taken care of, get it out of the way. It's not in my purview anymore. I don't have to worry about it. It's said and done. And then what is quadrant 4? Now, I call this the relaxation quadrant, which is I'm working on stuff that's neither important or urgent. I just need to kind of get it taken care of. Some people call this the lazy mode. Oh my gosh, I've got this stuff that needs to be done, but it doesn't have to be done right away. It's really not that important. I can put it off, but maybe I should take care of it. Maybe, but I'm not sure if I should take care of it or if I should push it off to someone else. What I want you to think about in all of these situations is, how does this affect you getting your quote unquote stuff done? When somebody calls you, does that throw you into a different quadrant? From a time management standpoint, can you say, this is the time that I take phone calls. I take phone calls between 1 and 3 in the afternoon, so that you know that when those phone calls come in, you've put everything else to the side and you're going to be taking care of whatever is happening on the phone at that time. Can you say, I'm going to peruse my emails at the beginning of the day to see if there's anything that I need to grab hold of, but by the end of the day, I'm going to have gone through all of those emails to make sure that I'm fine and ready for the next day? Can you say that the project that I'm working on is due in 3 weeks and I'm now in week 1? It's important that I get this project done, but it's not urgent yet. Let's always keep it at that not urgent yet status. So what do? Let me decide on what are the things that I need to do on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, even it may be on an hourly basis, so that I can do a piece of this at a time. So when that project is due, it is completed. And it is completed well. I've done the research, I've done the work, I've put all the pieces together so that they make sense. And the place, just think of this as a hot foot. This is a place where you never want to be. And that's quadrant 1, where everything is just hitting you all at one time. Oh my gosh, you know what? There's so much coming at me, I can't even think straight. That's the place where you don't want to be, because you don't do your best work when your brain is not engaged. So think of these ways for communicating as ways that you can look at how you communicate with others and how you communicate in various situations, whether you are just dealing with people one-on-one, whether you're dealing with people in a group, whether you're dealing with your coworkers, whether you're learning things for yourself and trying to move forward, or whether you're trying to get your time under control. These quads, as I call them, will help you in organizing your time, your space, and allow you to have time for you, because that's extremely important. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. My name is Brenda Bryant, and my email is listed below. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns that you might have. Also, let me know if there are some classes that you would like to see or some questions that you would like answered, that we can build these classes around just for you. So we also have a virtual classroom, and in our virtual classroom, we have classes that are in English and in Spanish. Please feel free to go to the virtual classroom and use whatever material is there. Also, we have a podcast called the Biz Life Podcast. And that's when we invite in small business owners, we invite in resources, we invite in organizations and government agencies to talk about how we as a community can serve you, the small business community. Thank you very much for joining us for this class. And if you are not a client of the Small Business Development Center, I would highly recommend that you do that. You just go to Nevada, SBDC.org, click on the big red spot that says Request Advising, and it will take you to this page, and you're going to click on the second one down, which is New Client Sign Up. Put in your information, say what you're interested in. Why do you want to connect? Why do you want to have an advisor? Maybe it's because I'm just starting a business and I'm not really sure what the process is I need to go through. Maybe it's because I'm hiring my first employee and I need to know how that affects my business. Maybe that's something completely different, but what you definitely want to make sure of is that you get connected with the Small Business Development Center. Thanks a lot.